Ja, gerade mal 2%. So hoch oder besser gesagt niedrig ist laut Cisco Cybersecurity Index 2024 der Anteil von Unternehmen in Deutschland, die sich optimal auf Cyberattacken vorbereitet sehen. Ja, gut, was auch immer das jetzt genau heißt. So zum Thema, sind Sie sportlich? Ja, ich finde mich schon ganz dufte. Keine Ahnung, wie das tatsächlich gemessen wurde. So richtig viel erkennt man daran nicht. Aber trotzdem ist es natürlich so, dass man schon in Summe erkennen kann, wenn selbst da die Firmen sagen, ja, so richtig sicher sind wir nicht, dass Cybersecurity häufig auch noch so ein bisschen als rein technisches Problem gesehen wird. Denn wenn man sich mal anschaut, optimal vorbereitet, was kann das eigentlich heißen? Und ich habe mal geguckt, es gibt da so eine gewisse, wie soll ich sagen, Gleichung, die heißt, Datenbruchrisiko ist gleich Eintrittswahrscheinlichkeit mal Auswirkungen des Bruchs. Und ihr wisst, wie gut ich in Mathe war. Ich so, was? Also wer da jetzt dran sitzt und sagt, ich weiß jetzt gerade gar nicht, was sie vorne mir da will mit diesem ganzen komischen Gleichnisgedöns. Ich glaube, unsere nächste Keynote-Speakerin wird es uns erklären können. Es geht nämlich um diese Data Security Due Diligence sozusagen. Und um da mal reinzuschauen, wie man Cyberrisiko quantifizieren kann, wie man sich das ausmessen kann, wenn man selber feststellen kann, wo man da steht, das erfahren wir gleich auf Englisch. Therefore, a very warm welcome to our next speaker, Global Head of Cyber Risk at Allianz, Dr. Leila Taghizadeh. I tried, I did.
Thank you. Normalerweise am Dienstag und Donnerstag habe ich meinen Deutschkurs, aber ich denke, heute hatte ich einen Crashkurs auf Deutsch. So this is going to be over. I almost, at least I believe I understood everything that has been said in this room. I'm not sure. I might have some imagination about what you said, but as I said in the very beginning, I'm not going to quote you exactly on what you said, but I might think that you said something completely different. So thank you very much for also putting up with me in English almost at the end of the day. I know it's a little bit warm here, and perhaps lots of you are going to be almost falling asleep, but I try at least to make it short. But before starting, I would like to ask a question. I know previously we all showed that we are not within the average, like none of us were using almost smart home at home, but who from you already had to deal, whether private or professionally, with cyber risk quantification? Wow, okay, great. Who already dealt with any type of risk quantification? Okay, I hope by the end of this talk I can actually reassure you that all of you have used risk quantification. Perhaps you haven't used Monte Carlo simulation, you haven't used lots of fancy algorithm out there, but I can already tell you every time that you are buying an insurance, it doesn't matter whatever it is, but particularly whenever you're buying a car insurance, you're actually doing a risk quantification. I know that in Germany, the appetite and let's say, the implication of buying insurance is slightly different from the rest of the world. You know the stereotype, they say that, well, looking at the German stock market, also the highest one in the market are insurance company. That's because that's the German appetite for buying insurance, which, by the way, I love it. I work in insurance company, so I love this appetite, and that's why we are growing so well. But at the end of the day, every time you want to buy an insurance, you're actually calculating what is your risk. Do I need to transfer this risk to an insurance, or I can afford it? And we do it every day. We do it so automatically that we don't even consider it. You go and buy a clothes. You go and buy a jacket. You always, let's say you go to a shop and then there is a sale. What do? You calculate, well, do I really need a jacket now? And then you say, maybe not now, but what if I need it in 2 months, and then in 2 months I need to pay a full price, and now I can buy 30%. Then the question is, this 30%, is it within your appetite or is it above your appetite? And this is how we every day actually do risk calculation. And I know it's super pain for our families globally, whenever we are talking about risk, cyber risk in general, and I know that for my family is another pain, because every time they are doing something, I ask them, is it within appetite or above appetite? And everyone hates it, absolutely. But maybe just, okay, I saw everyone had a problem here. Oh, okay. So just a quick introduction, and we already heard that, first of all, we shouldn't be so humble. We should be able to speak about what we have done in our life. So here it is, what I have done, but actually that's not the reason why I put what I have done in my life here. I want to tell a story. You look at my, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you realize that actually I have done a study in physics. So I used to be a professor at university. I taught physics, quantum, electrodynamic, whatever, and then I moved to IT. And now I'm doing cyber risk. You ask yourself, what am I doing? And by the way, I studied in English, then I learned French. Now I'm working in a German company where I just told my colleague, do not gossip about me. I do understand German, but I cannot actually speak German. But what is my role? I am a translator. What does it mean? I speak to all super smart people like yourself, like all these fancy stories that we heard since morning. I listen to all these technical terms and I translate it into human language, a language that board understand, a language that a business can take a decision with. So since the very beginning of my life, whether personally or professionally, I've been always working in intersection of different fields. I worked with lots of lawyers, with medical doctors, with lots of scientists, and you know when I call it, you can already imagine all these people, they think they're smartest one, they are the only one who knows how to solve a problem, and truly, we are all pain. But this was my life, and today I do again the same thing. So I am Global Head of Cyber Risk Management at Allianz. I already explained what I do. I do the translation, and I just ask everyone, is it within appetite or above appetite? What should we do with it? I'm also CISO for IberoLatam region, and there, well, surprise, I don't speak Spanish, but at least I understand sort of. So prior to here, I spent lots of time in the financial sector. I worked at Swift, I worked at Euroclear, but in my personal life, and I would say as a hobby, I'm also an investor, and I'm also an advisor for lots of small businesses. Before going to my presentation, if any of you are a front-end engineer or a full-stack developer, and would like to participate in a very cool project, after this come to me or write to me on LinkedIn. I would like us to speak. So this is just a quick glance at Allianz. I know lots of you know Allianz, but just to put it in perspective, it's still a company with actually more than 14 billion euros profit. We do care about cyber risk. So you can already imagine, if a company has over 14 billion euro of profit and they still sit there and calculate what is our risk, it means it matters. So if next time during your conversation, whether with your senior manager, with the board, they are hesitating, shall we really spend some money on cyber risk calculation? Yes, we should do it. Because even a company in this size, and I can already tell you, if an event happens where the loss is going to be, I don't know, a couple of €100,000, which could make some companies bankrupt, it will not make Allianz bankrupt. But yet we invest in it. So it is super important because it is not only about the money that you are going to lose. And that's the difficulty in cyber risk calculation. Because you can always calculate how much money directly you are going to lose, but you cannot calculate what is the opportunity cost. What is the future business development that you are going to lose? And that's where I would say, as much as cyber risk calculation is about science, is also an art. You need to speak to your business developers. You need to engage with your strategy partners. You need to know what is the real appetite of business. Previously in my career, I was engaged in a business development for China. Now, you can imagine China, when you are expanding your business in China, it's not a mathematical calculation. It's a geopolitical risk. How do you want to add that geopolitical aspect into a Monte Carlo simulation? It is absolutely impossible. But if that's the business decision, and business wants to go to China, wants to go to Hong Kong, wants to go to Venezuela, wants to go to the Middle East, you must be able to calculate that risk. And again, it doesn't come out of Monte Carlo simulation, I can reassure you, but yet you need to calculate it. And by the way, as usual, we are there to serve business. Even if I say, well, it's a super high risk, it's above our appetite, if the CEO signed for it, what is my next role? To say, okay, considering all this risk, you want to move there, now let us see how we can mitigate this risk. And that's why so I was hired actually to put this program set up at Allianz for cyber risk quantification. There were already lots of work being done, but then they wanted to put it in a more robust framework. So we started the journey already more than 2 years ago, and it's quite a journey, I can say it. Well, if I understood well, you stated and someone else also that cybersecurity is not a status, it's rather a journey. I understood correctly, right? Okay, perfect. So, well, actually, it's the same as what the program we've been trying to put in place. So what we have done, again, when you talk about cyber risk quantification, you look at the market, you hear lots of different products, you hear lots of different methodology and algorithm, and I can tell you all of them are wrong. Any number you get from any calculation is wrong. Because there are lots of aspects. There is the geopolitical risk, which on top of everything, every day we are dealing with it. No one can put the risk of Trump being elected as a president in the US or Kamala Harris being elected as a president of the US into a calculation. So any number is wrong. It's just a matter of how wrong it is. And there again, is it within our appetite or is out of our appetite? So what we have done when we started putting up this program, we started looking at basically vendor identification, who exists in the market, and we came up with a very long list. Then we started looking at the public information that they have. We started looking at we spread some questionnaire to the vendor. Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you ABC, basically. And then in the end, we also raised we had some appointment with different vendors when we asked about demo and so on, and in the end, we did an evaluation. So at the end of the day, I literally went to the board and I said that all of them are wrong, but we're still going to do something about it. So there were different data that at least for us was important to really consider them as an input. So here you see some of them. Because we do know that whenever we are calculating our risk, it matters what we have that we want to protect. That's the very first question that you ask yourself. And that's normally comes more or less with the size of the company, with the size of asset you have. What is the super important thing that if you lose, you are going to pay a lot for it, or you're going to basically lose your business. Then there are some legal aspects of it. None of us want to be non-compliant, not particularly now with DORA and NIS2 in Europe. Then you have some sort of rate conversion if you work for a global company, and so on and so forth. Now, the very next question is, it depends on how complex your program is. Some of you are perhaps, and I think I spoke with some of you about FAIR model. You know that FAIR model is a super complex model. I always say it takes an army of people to implement FAIR, for example, for a company like Allianz. If you do it, then we are going to have a very intensive conversation. We can actually debate about it for weeks and potentially for months. Whether you can follow this or you can put all your input into a Monte Carlo simulation. So what is a Monte Carlo simulation? Basically, you calculate a stochastic, all the random movement, and you create a model out of it. And it's really like plug in half an hour, maybe in 3 hours. If you have so much data, you get a result. And I always tell to my board, if we spend 3 hours getting a simulation done, do not debate for 3 hours about the result. We can debate 3 minutes about the result, not 3 hours. So we do the cyber risk quantification, and then if the result is, I don't know, 420 million, Do not start questioning me, why is it 420 million and why isn't it 400 million? But actually, there is no difference between 400 and 420. You can ask me, why is it 420 million and not 420,000, but not to that level? So again, all these models are wrong, but anyway, we found some which were slightly not as worse as others. Let's put it that way. Then what we have done, I'm just showing some general result, and if you want, of course, to take picture, you can take. You look at the disclosure which are on top. These are not based on real data that we have, but somehow at least it gives you some guidance why we have chosen some and why we decided not to go with a specific vendor. Again, these are based on the criteria that I said in the very beginning, that we had some criteria, we shortlisted some vendors, we went into a demo, and in the end, we thought, well, we shortlisted in the end 3, and we had to decide based on the price, based on the implementation cost, and so on and so forth. But basically, if you look at the why we decided to go with some and not with the other, you see that one of them was the capacity that our company could afford. Allianz is a company with over 57 operating entity or subsidiary and 500 plus legal entity. So I sit in the group, but good luck if you want to implement something. We are talking about multiplying it by 500 times. And that means 500 also across the globe, everyone different language, everyone different regulatory requirement, and so on and so forth. And I know I'm out of time, just 2 minutes, and I'm going to close it. So basically, this, and if you want to implement, you should really go through this exercise. You cannot copy and paste it from another company, but these are like exemplary stuff that you should discuss it at least with your board. Another important thing is that, again, we do cyber risk quantification because we want to know if our risk is within our appetite or is above our appetite. And we want to know what other control we should put in place. How should we mitigate our risk? And here you see a few of, I would say, fancy stuff. I like very much these mosquito bites. Again, by the way, in cyber risk, everything is just, everyone can understand it. Everything is just common sense. What is a mosquito bite? Whenever we are talking of risk, people say pay attention to high and very high risk, those that are above appetite. I do agree with it. But imagine if you have a very small risk, like a mosquito bite. 1 mosquito bite is okay. 5 mosquito bites, maybe in the morning you are in a very bad mood. But imagine 500 mosquito bites at night. You are definitely gonna go to emergency room in the morning. So that's why those mosquito bites are important. Because at some point you want to make sure that there is not that one tiny control which doesn't have any importance in your organization, but is going to send everyone to emergency room in the morning. And that's why, again, cyber risk quantification, the numbers are incorrect. But the story you tell out of cyber risk quantification is super important because you need to be able to connect the dots. You need to say, this is my risk quantification. If I want to mitigate this, where are the areas that the board has to agree with you to invest further to improve your control environment? And telling this story, you need people who can understand technical terms, but they are very good in storytelling. So normally we are in one range or the other, whether we are a very good storyteller or we are very good in technical terms. Doesn't matter where you are. Just find your other counterparty. Whether you're on the left or on the right, simply just find the other person, other people, so that you can tell the story to the board. At the end of the day, if no one pays for it, we don't have anything to do. I know I am out of time, apology about it. In German culture, it is not acceptable, but I am a foreigner, so I have an excuse for that. Thank you. Thank you.